Kunming railway station is a very imposing Chinese railway station. Absolutely packed with people, travellers. It's reopened after last night, and there are lots of heavily armed police with ballistic helmets and assault rifles standing around. What seems to have happened is that at about 9:15 last night, a group of about 10 people dressed in black, carrying knives, some of them very long, approached this train station and started hacking at people, apparently randomly, hacking at their heads, their torsos, their legs, hacking at women, hacking at men, hacking at older people, hacking at younger people. And so far we know that at least 29 of those civilians are dead. We believe 3 of the knife gang are dead, and several have been taken into custody. So there's a bit of confusion about exactly how it played out, and we've talked to people in shops nearby who've described scenes of absolute pandemonium and panic, with hundreds of people rushing into their restaurants, hiding under the tables to try and get away from the knife men. At a supermarket we went to, where the shutters came down, with about 40 people hiding inside, some of whom had been injured by the knife gang. So pretty terrifying stuff. The government said it was putting the blame on groups from the province of Xinjiang, which is far west China, extremist groups, terrorist groups, and separatist groups. Now, the government said that they had found evidence on the crime scene to prove that was the case. But we don't know what that evidence is at the moment. Nothing has been presented to the media, and we've not been able to get any sort of official information about that from the police or from the government. We've been trying to talk to the police here, and they simply won't. Which is not necessarily uncommon. So most of our information at the moment is coming from ordinary people who saw it. But the official government line is that they are terrorists from Western China, and therefore likely to be part of an ethnic group called the Uyghurs, which composes about 50% of the population in Xinjiang province. There are hundreds and hundreds of people probably now outside the train station, and a lot of them are travellers, but a lot of them are also people who've just come to pay tribute to the dead. They're lighting candles. They're leaving flowers here, and all of the floral tributes have the 1st of the 3rd, the 1st of March written on them. But this is very much being seen here as a 9/11 style event. It's by far the worst incident of its kind in China, and it's obvious that this is going to have a huge impact on what will happen here. It will have a huge impact, I think, in terms of the security situation in Xinjiang. There is likely to be a very severe government crackdown there. I mean, there's already a crackdown going on there, but that is likely to intensify because of this. This is a very, very big deal in China, and they've all of the newspaper front pages today are calling this the 1st of the 3rd. It's their 9/11.
A police officer was the only armed member of the 4-man team. Within 15 seconds, he brought down all 5 attackers.
I was 15 meters from the attackers then. I saw them slicing the victims one by one. I shouted, "Put down your knives," and fired warning shots before they all turned to me. When a thin black masked attacker was less than a meter away from gunpoint, I shot the attacker down. The other 4 attackers, however, did not back off and continued to run at me with knives. So I fired at all of them.
Of the tensions between certain Uyghurs and the Chinese state. In the past, we haven't really seen much activity outside of Xinjiang itself. We did see this alleged attack on Tiananmen Square late last year, but even that was much smaller scale. This particular attack looked very much to be organized, and looked much more, frankly, much more like a terrorist attack than anything I've seen yet done by Uyghurs in China. In fact, it's interesting because the Chinese government, in part, is working to develop Xinjiang with the hopes of alleviating ethnic tension. I think I do see this as potentially an escalation. We've seen this. We've seen basically since 2009, since the riots in Urumqi, a constant flow of violent acts. Some that look like they were localized expressions of frustration, perhaps retribution for things the police had done to members of people's family or so on. but in this particular case, first it being outside of Xinjiang, and secondly, very overtly targeting citizens, civilians, and being done by a group that seemed to be organized, definitely suggests that the tensions in Xinjiang are starting to boil over. Real worries is that that this results essentially in escalation on the part of the Chinese government and Chinese citizens in terms of increasing a lot of the activity that is creating the tension in Xinjiang to begin with. And in turn, I'm worried that we might see an increase of violence out of that, because already I've been reading a lot of expressions of anger among Chinese citizens, just in terms on the internet. Average citizens expressing that they're not going to speak with Uyghurs anymore. There's also some other voices saying, all Uyghurs are not the same. And we're also seeing that the Chinese government is immediately addressing this in the same way they've addressed other problems in Xinjiang, which is by intense increase in security.